Today I'm going to be covering the delay of the new Death Guard Codex, as well as a leaked Plague Marine datasheet, which has lots of interesting things that I am going to go over, and also the entire leaked Mortarion datasheet, which hints at a new army-wide ability, and I'm going to be going over all of that in today's video. So anyway, let's dive straight into it. Now, first of all, there was an article yesterday on the Warhammer community website that says basically because of COVID, they've had shipping problems, probably shipping the plastic. Not too much information on this, but they've had shipping problems and they have unfortunately had to delay the new codex until next month. I think this might also be part of the reason why lots of Death Guard has been out of stock on the Games Workshop web store recently, although again we're not 100% sure. So basically it's going to be coming in January, so hopefully it won't be too long of a delay, hopefully not more than a few weeks. But in this Warhammer community article, they also gave some really nice wallpaper and art, which you can check out over there, and some really nice pictures. But the most important thing was that they gave the full Mortarion datasheet with all the abilities and everything. Now, first off, unlike in the previous video where I talked about the leak and there wasn't any view of the Reaping Scythe data, attack data on the datasheet, it can confirm that it is actually there and that is not getting removed, just to clear that up from my last video. Now, the most interesting thing here is in the abilities. Of course, if you didn't see the video on the leak, basically the main changes are that Mortarion is now toughness 8 and he also gets an extra attack, which is going to be extremely useful. So of course the re-rolls of 1 are only for Death Guard core units, so that's basically only main infantry. I'm not sure whether Terminators are going to be included in that or not, but basically you can't have tanks re-rolling the hit rolls of 1 because of Mortarion. Another thing is that you basically, so at the start of your turn, you can select one Death Guard core unit and until or a character within 6 inches of Mortarion, and until the start of your next turn, every time that unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll, which is only useful. It's not too much of a difference, but it's going to give a slight buff. Now, the most interesting thing is, I think we have heard about it somewhere else, the Contagions of Nurgle ability we've seen in the datasheet. However, we've not heard what that is. But the interesting thing is if you go to Toxic Presence, it says this model counts the battle round number as being 4 for the purposes of determining the contagion range of the contagion abilities. Now, what's interesting about this is it means that the Contagions of Nurgle, now these are the same abilities because it says page 63 and it's definitely referring to that. But what this means is that the Contagions of Nurgle ability is some sort of aura that does damage because it's got a range and it changes per turn. So what we basically mean is we don't have much information on this. Actually, this is all the information we have. But what this makes us know is that there is some sort of army-wide Death Guard ability that does damage to the enemy or nerfs their weapons when they are within a certain range of Death Guard models, and that changes between terms. Now, between different turns. Now, of course, you can have speculation on what you think that is in the comments below, although we don't really have any real information. Now, on to the Plague Marine datasheet. Now, although we don't have the names of the guns and melee weapons, I can easily tell you which ones they are. As for the stats itself, the only real difference is that we have 1 extra attack. Everything else, as far as I'm concerned, is the same as it was previously. Oh, and of course we do also have 2 wounds like we did have like they announced a few months ago. Now, as for the weapons, so the first weapon here is the Blight Launcher. 6 minus 2, 2 attacks. Now the difference is it previously was D3 damage and is now instead 2 damage, and I think this is going to be an army-wide thing, doing 2 damage instead of D3 damage, as if you look the what's it called? The Power Fist which is this weapon. It used to be ×2 minus 3 d3. Now it's ×2 minus 3 2. So this is of course very good for Death Guard in general, because we've also had this with other weapons from the other leaked data sheets, because D3 damage is extremely inconsistent, and considering most of the infantry models nowadays, all sorts of Marines, Chaos Marines and also Imperial Marines, do have 2 wounds, as well as many other models. Doing flat 2 damage is certainly better, because if you're doing D3 damage, every time you roll a 3, that's going to be wasted, and every time you roll a 1 is going to mean you're going to have an extra 1 to kill a model that has 2 wounds. So doing flat 2 damage is certainly a bit of a buff, although it doesn't make too much difference in the end. The difference for any of the other ranged weapons are, of course, it's 12 inches on the flamers that the Death Guards can have, of course, because it's 401. Now, another interesting thing is this is 12-inch, and it looks like it's a blast d6 at 5 minus 1 1. Now, this would assume it's a grenade if it's a blast, though I think that might be heavy. I'm not actually too sure. If that's a blast, that means they buffed the grenades. If not, because I know they do have a heavy flamer, which is 9 inches at 5 minus 1 1. So I'm not too sure about that. But if that's not the case, then I don't know where the grenades are, because they are not on this data sheet, which is very interesting. Now, the melee weapons, because they're so similar, it's quite difficult to tell which melee weapon is which melee weapon. However, one thing to note is that none of the weapons are AP 0, which means the Plague Knife, which I assume is this one, because that's Strength User AP 1, Damage 1, now has AP 1. Now, this is, of course, super useful, because it basically means that if you're charging them with your Flail of Corruptions or whatever, the ones that aren't equipped with special weapons are going to be able to do a bit more damage than they previously would. Now, back to the Flail of Corruptions, they have changed in some way. However, unfortunately, we don't really know which weapon is which weapon. They could be the one doing +2 -1 3, although what I reckon is more likely is they're doing +1 -2 2 damage, because that they were previously +2 -2 2, so I think they might be getting a bit of a nerf. If so, I'm not really surprised, because they have always been extremely overpowered, so I'm not too surprised that they might be getting a bit of a nerf. Plus, losing 1 strength isn't going to be that bad, and we don't know. I would assume that the abilities are going to stay the same, although again, we don't know about that because we still haven't got any information for the abilities on any data sheets, apart from, of course, the Mortarian data sheet. So that is about it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe and turn notifications, and put your comments in the opinion. Not put your comments in the opinions. I'm talking rubbish. Put your opinions in the comments down below. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.